Hi guys, this is a podcast Innovating Humanity, when we are trying to look from different angles, maybe new angles to current situations in education, anthropology, psychology, and so on, just maybe to find new ways how to approach our lives. And I have a wonderful guest today in studio, Iveta Apine, founder of Constellations Center, Systemic Constellations Center Riga. By the way, I'm really huge fan. It's actually such a trivial word in some sense, but a huge fan of Bert Hellinger. But when I try to kind of pronounce this full sentence of systemic constellations, right? This concept from Bert Hellinger, it's just so inspiring. Yet my English maybe is not so good that I'm a little bit stumbling here and there. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So, Iveta, maybe we could chat a little bit about these systemic constellations and what are their meanings and positive aspects and opportunities for people. Because this is kind of, for me, I have been 20 years, almost 20 years in different spiritual ways and paths and looking for different methods. And what I find right now that my conclusion is quite simple. Bert Hellinger is one of the geniuses of 20th century. Kind of for me, it's like Carl Gustav Jung, and then is the next step Bert Hellinger. I know that I'm exaggerating. This is my feeling right now, but what he offers people, how to solve their deepest kind of fears, deepest kind of struggles, it's something really close to miraculous, kind of that. You are in his system for something like 13 years right now, right?
Yes, I am for 13 years involved in systemic work and systemic constellations. And in fact, I, of course, also highly value him. And somehow I am also among the people who have experienced really what constellations can do. And well, somehow it has happened that at one point me and my husband, we are in the process of constellations training and facilitation ourselves, and that's how things happen in life. Yeah.
What has changed for you exactly? So you told your personal story that at one moment you had kind of tough or rough patch in your life. It wasn't quite easy. Your husband says, listen, here you have 13 books, please dive into it, or kind of that.
Yeah, the beginning was very interesting. In fact, we really started by reading. And I started by reading, and this is like our family joke. My husband came from one training with Bert Hellinger with 13 books, arrived back in Riga and said, you know what, I think it's about time to read them. And I was so mad at him. And
he's like general, he's like ordering you to do something.
Well, he doesn't order, but at that point I think it was really crucial, some change needed to happen. And to be honest, I don't know how I put myself together, to read, to start reading and to move. But in general, it's of course not so much about the books, it's about the movement that needs to happen. I mean, we need to evolve.
Inner movement.
Of course,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
All this work basically means that we really do our best to help people in different contexts to experience a movement. And of course, this is a question, what kind of movement? But probably the best words how I could describe it, we talk about the inner movement towards more wholeness, towards, a more healthy us. And I think what systemic approach has to offer, and I really believe it's invaluable, the understanding that we can be whole only as part of the system. And this is a totally different movement. I mean, in the 21st century, we are obsessed with being
Separate
successful,
or individual.
being individual, being whatever, full of everything, but separated. So the systemic movement, and it starts within us, and the constellations are like a vehicle that can introduce and support us in that movement, and maybe initiate also, not maybe, but it does initiate the movement towards a more really united, in a good way, more healthy, more whole self.
For me, the crucial word, what was really kind of new as in its simplicity, kind of shocking, that so we are all, everyone is searching for love, and this love goes with respect, and with respect in your inner family tribe, so to speak. So that, for example, if I have resistance towards my mother, kind of I can be resistant because I have my troubles, I cannot forgive, blah blah blah, so I'm not respecting my mother. All this disrespect goes towards myself, and it is disrupting this flow of love and respect in this family tribe. And so by this, I'm kind of crushing this wholeness. So this crucial word is, again, love. What characterizes wholeness, and the simple word who characterizes it is, do you feel that you respect your relatives, you respect your mother, your father? And it's so simplistic in a way, right? So simplistic in a way, in a broader sense. But there are so many nuances in the terms how it manifests itself in different systems for different people, different backgrounds, and so on, so on, so on.
Yeah, I think respect and really honoring is the essence of this approach. I mean, how can we be whole if we are unable to, let's put it this way, we basically have no chance to be happy, and to be happy in a sense of whole, until we really dare to look into the basics of what we are coming from. And we all are coming from our parents and the family system. We don't have a closer system. That's the environment, the system we've grown up into. And largely our today's grown up, hopefully, more or less, I mean, grown up reactions, they are so logical. When we look at ourselves, we explore ourselves in the context of the family system, because it's only illusion that a mind can create and hold to, that we are without the past. No, we have the past until we really have the guts to look at it and to grow over our very many childhood, and sometimes not only our own childhood but the family system history, to include the aspects. And sometimes people ask, what does it mean to include? What should I have to do? And the inclusion, of course, is a very, very tricky word. I think it's a skill we all need to learn every day. Inclusion is not doing. Inclusion is a state of being.
Attitude.
It creates an attitude, but in generally it's a state of being, not an action to take. I mean, we can try to include, like every birthday we celebrate. We celebrate someone's birthday, but it doesn't mean that it is fully including this movement. But when it is included, when the movement is based on deep inclusion, we feel simply natural. We don't have any extra expectations. We do not have to protect ourselves so much. We don't have to do any extra. We physically are. So that's the essence, I think. And I would say that constellations is really a vehicle to help each of us to have insights where, with our specific situations and problems currently in life, not someday ago, but really now in the present, with which situations we unconsciously are still solving something from the past as part of a family system. And in general, the more I am involved in these movements and the more I work with people, I am amongst those who also think that maybe it's an illusion at all that we have our own individual problems. Maybe it's just our separation that makes us think that it is our problems. Maybe each of our problems is a part of something much bigger. So the question is, do we have to look even at our personal problems? Are we important enough in a way?
I have two kind of reflections towards that. One thing is like when you see some tensions in your life, disharmony and so on, actually you can understand that it is in your deeper disruption towards your family. This is one of Bert Heldengen's. It's kind of really kind of, I'm speaking really broadly, but so for example, if I have problem in some sense in body, in relationships, so that means there's kind of disharmony back there, back in my family.
I would say a little bit differently. I agree with you, and it's just that, you see, there is a difference if we see this movement back or we see that, not the movement, but this problem. Do we see the cause of the problem in the back? Are we coming from that perspective? And then we say yes in the family system. I mean, of course it is there. Or we see our problem as something that is preventing us from experiencing a more flourishing life. Because movement towards life is by default a movement that is enlarging us and in a way showing us some direction. So I would say that every problem, every question that we feel inside us, we somehow can perceive that it is preventing us from moving forward in life or accepting life as it is and through that blossoming. That is the question. Probably it makes sense to look at it. And it's I really think that in the beginning we try to solve what has not been solved in the family systems. The reality is all of us have plenty of unsolved questions in the family systems. But at some point, when we get enough of this picture, we still have the same question. Shall I continue looking back? Or shall I allow myself, and this is really like a signal of growth potential, shall I finally dare to look how is my life opening and what is preventing me from opening of my life? You know, because otherwise, I mean, so many people have the tendency to always look back, and there's enough to find.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is enough to find for all of us. So at some point, this is anyway a choice. How do we spend our life? Because one lifetime is not enough to solve.
I have talked about this concept with people, and one girl said really kind of touchingly that when she imagined that her father and mother they are respecting each other, they are showing each other respect, she said there was something so deep touched in my heart that I didn't understand that I need this system to be full with this love and respect. And that was what I meant by this harmony. Yeah. When you see this harmony in your life, you can just check it in your system, in your family tribal system, where is this kind of blockage of respect or blockage of awareness or exclusion of someone, right? That happens again as an opposite of love.
Yeah, I think this is really like an algorithm to check. This is what we each can do. Where do we see disrespect? Where do we see exclusion, judgments?
My really kind of super trivial example how it could work in a daily life. So I play beach volleyball, And there is one point when someone does on the field something really strange, what I would say like this is like not really smart, blah blah blah. And so, and I feel that kind of consciously, I feel with my awareness that I'm starting to judging him, and I'm becoming snobbish, and I'm thinking, oh, this is such a loser whatsoever. I'm exaggerating right now, right? But this is the moment there is this disrespect. So, for example, how do I approach? How do I feel about my mother? Do I honor her or respect her? Because, of course, she has made a lot of mistakes, as everyone does. Jesus did mistakes. And the Buddha didn't know from whom to take rice bowl or something like that. So everyone makes mistakes. Can I be respectful? And this is kind of this genius that it can be manifested towards this love, attitude of love with respect. This is I have goosebumps again just talking about that. It's really miraculous.
And also, when people think of what they maybe would like to solve or what is currently causing them problems, the trick is that if you have never seen a respect between your mother and father, how on earth can it come to your mind that that is what is missing? You see, you can't think of something you haven't met. That is why it's really so hard to formulate what is the question. And I am also among those people who think that if we are able to formulate the question, we are halfway in the solutions, really in a good way. I mean solutions, because formulating where is the issue. This is the trick, because we have grown up we only know life through the lens we have been born into and we have experienced so far. We don't know anything else. Even the friends we have around, the colleagues, the organizations, the professional life, the profession itself, we can only approach it from the perspective of the life we have learned so far by the environment. We are so largely influenced by that, and then of course growing up, our issues change, and that's the path, I think.
What is really kind of made me awestruck is easiness. What comes after you kind of just name things.
Yeah.
So, for example, you name thing that mother, I understand that you have gone through difficulties, a lot of difficulties you couldn't do differently. I honor and respect your choices, and I understand that you gave everything that you could. So you are just naming some basic facts what are representing this respect and how it changes.
Internally,
even now,
we don't know where.
And even now, when I'm saying this, and I have worked with this for for some time right now, even now, when I'm just repeating these words, it kind of resonates with me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And also, what we notice, like, where's the difference? We started with this talk about the movement. So that's exactly how we can understand if we are moving. I mean, we are being moved. What you say, you are being moved. And in a way, if we are successful with the systemic work and systemic interventions, meaning we do the right thing somehow systemically, then usually clients, they report it easily. They say, oh, I'm at peace. I feel the peace. And that's a totally different reaction. So that's the movement. The movement towards wholeness, more integration, more whatever you call it. We personally feel them as more peace, not more motivation, not more... that is something else, not more inspiration. We feel more at home with us, so it is touching us. And when the process is in a way complete, when we say systemically in the family system, when we are more or less not more or less even, we are at our place in the family system, we feel the peace and we're really happy with the world exactly the way it is. So each centimeter we move makes a huge, huge difference internally. Our questions completely change.
There's this concept that happiness is nothing else but lack of suffering. So, for example, if you reduce amount of tension, inner tension towards something, tension regarding mother, tension regarding yourself, father, grandfather, whatsoever, so you are actually becoming more organic, and because our whole being is to be at peace, and peace is kind of our natural state, what kind of, we can say that love is peace, deep inner peace. And when we actually feel this, I feel peaceful, but I understand you are just kind of one step closer to even more deep peace. It's a gradual process. You will go, and as you said, that we have so many aspects in your life to check it out and work with ourselves and kind of that.
Yeah, and also, I think most of us, we come from the idea, we are in the idea that at some point we will be able to solve all our issues and then we will be happy. This is such an illusion. This is a really linear thinking. It is, of course, a mind creation. I mean, it never happens. But maybe I would say that we can look differently, and that changes the picture. We always have questions, but if we notice that during a lifetime our questions change, in essence, like the question I have now is different than 5 years ago, oh my God, we've done the job. But if we keep repeating in ourselves or loudly asking for help or no, basically it doesn't matter. If we keep, circling around the same more or less topics or questions, this is usually the signal that we are really entangled somewhere in the system and we are unconscious about. The only thing we have kind of a symptomatic strange behavior when we are circulating around the same questions. And that is, I think, what most of us have really experienced, that no matter how you try to work with it, it keeps repeating in one or the other form, the questions, yeah? And unfortunately, it doesn't matter how long we work with it. Until we circulate around the same topic, we don't have the movement. We haven't touched what needs to be touched. We haven't, we haven't unpacked the level at which it can be solved. And of course, there is a good reason for that, because in order to unpack something new, we need enough energy. And because otherwise we can't hold it. We need enough psychic energy to be able to look at a different level of questions. And so working on our energy, I would say, is really, really important. And it stays a task for our whole lifetime. And in a way, I think life helps us, because the elder we get, the less we have specific types of energy, and they change for something else. And it seems that normal development of people requires also to follow that. And in this movement, it means that our questions should change. If in 30 and 60 we have the same questions, sorry, we haven't done the job. Which is fine.
Why not? Different ways.
Why
different,
not? Which is
growth.
fine anyway. We don't know where we are coming from and where we are going. But the development means that the topics change. Not that we can solve everything and then go happy. This is a childhood dream that when I grow up, I will be this, and this. But when we have grown up and we finally discovered that in some aspects we are still children, well, hello.
Jung has this saying, until unconscious isn't made conscious, you are calling it destiny, and it guides or rules your life. It's such a wonderful saying, and there it goes to this topic of, for example, we are trying to improve our lives, let's say somehow to get, let's say Buddhist approach to get rid of some suffering, as it is normal. It is just normal way towards your wholeness and towards your inner love and so on. And there is this inner, let's call it energy. It's kind of metaphysical, esoteric word, but let's call it energy. That this energy in you who has this respect, who lacks honor towards yourself, towards father, mother, it kind of tries to rule you. It kind of tries to block kind of new ideas or new approaches. So you are under the mercy of this energy who has this respect. It kind of this disrespectful energy. For example, I love my mom and so on, but I told you that I had this back problem. I had for 5 years. I had problem with my back, and then I used a little bit different method, not Bert Hellinger's method, but I kind of in 3 days I solved something like problem that I had for 5 years just by mentally changing approach towards my mother, towards love, and psychosomatically. Evidently, there was connection between my back pain and my attitude towards mother, and so those 5 years actually I was at mercy to this inner energy blockage who kind of didn't allow me to find solutions. And this is kind of really crossroads for everyone. So you have this problem in your life, whatever the problem may be, relationships, work, health, and so on, and you can find this path towards harmony, but you need to make this choice, kind of to say to this energy what guides you right now, this destructive energy. Listen, I need something more and something new. And what you are saying about this, to get in the new level of spiral, right? Not to circle on the same level, but to get in the new level of circling and to make this choice. But most of us are kind of at the mercy of this destructive energy, what kind of blockades us from these ideas, from these opportunities. Because just finishing my long mumbling here, that what I said to you, I'm so surprised that Bert Hellinger is not as much known as Einstein, for example, or Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, right? That this is so crucial. And then again, I suppose this kind of self-destruction and disrespect what we have towards ourselves and others and family, that it is so powerful in our minds that kind of it blockades, for example, these ideas of Bert Hellinger kind of to spread more mainstream. That's my approach. I don't know. This kind of.
Yeah, I cannot comment much about that, but maybe I would comment on a piece you mentioned. What I think is very important. We kind of have a saying that what is inevitable is we have to face the pain.
Rather sooner than later.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, we can't avoid the pain. That's part of life, as well as joy. But there is a difference between the pain and the suffering. So, of course, it goes in different philosophies and therapies with different names and terms. But in general, I think it makes a big difference. Like suffering is something that, you are helpless, you suffer. But with feeling pain, you choose to be awake and to go through that state of pain, because even that will end. And regarding the pain, and our family systems are full of unexpressed, unfelt pain. And this can end in a really destructive behaviors in family systems. But these are just the consequences. But in general, regarding the pain, how we look at individual life, and what is the process of development of an individual, it has to do with understanding what is our pain. We don't need more, but we need to be able to look at our own. And to look at our own pain is a much tougher question than to carry someone else's pain, for example. the whole universe, or the family system, or the grandmother, grandfather generation, which is also, by the way, very typical, or carry the pain of the mother. By the way, this also can be one of the ways why we have anger and disrespect towards the mother, because underneath we have a pain. And this is our individual pain as part of the system. Since we have been so long and so heavily exposed to feelings that we shouldn't have been, for example, as children. And then sometimes for a child, it can feel like an enormous, never-ending suffering. So, and also for children, we all have been children. And for us as children, this is fine. We are part of the family system. We naturally perceive it. Children do not think separately for a very long period of time. And somehow when we grow up, we kind of unlearn this perception that we are part of something. This is very interesting. And then in a grown-up adult people trainings, what we are teaching people is to perceive. And sometimes they are very, very scared, because if you perceive you as a part of a system, you cannot separate yourself anymore, and you have to feel. And then, well, I don't know for the good or for the bad, but that's the reality. We perceive also like what has happened to us and to our family system has influenced us, including the pain. So dealing with the pain, I think, is something that we as adults have to really learn. And it's not about the pain itself. It's about the fact that growing up means we need to face specific things. And on the same topic, I want to say, now today we talk more kind of about families, but actually we see the same, not just in the family topics. We see it everywhere. We also see it in organizations and in society, in any form and shape. People are, we are constructed in a way to avoid pain and to have more pleasure. And that's natural. But growing up, of course, in a good way, in a systemic, for example, if we say way, it means also, we can't take our place in the family by not facing it. And then, of course, our life in all aspects, also in organizational, professional, it changes very much.
By the way, my feeling always has been that I have trouble as a teacher, trouble pushing towards discovering your pain without giving a tool how to get rid of it. So now, for example, I have gathered a lot of methods, and Bert Hellinger, what I see and what I'm trying to dig deeper and understand deeper, it is one of the most core methods, what touches really the core of human being. And to face the pain, kind of just to name it. Okay, one is to recognize I have a kind of huge problem. I need to solve it kind of in a really deep level. This is the one kind of decision, right? Second decision is, for example, if we take Bert Hellinger, then the good thing about I just want to make a kind of really advertisement for that it is towards releasing, naming and releasing, facing and releasing, and going towards inner peace.
Of course, not enlarging the suffering. We don't have to suffer. It's
and not to fight. And this is like a paradox. So we are going towards love, and this process is with love. And because a lot of religions, lot of philosophies and schools, different philosophical schools and something like that, go through this willpower and suffering and blah blah blah. And again, it has to be on this planet, in this civilization, because we have such a overflowing destruction vibes, and we need this kind of pain and suffering, even while climbing Everest. But in this method, this is kind of, there is this kindness to it, right? There's this kindness, openness and kindness, and it goes towards this more deep inner peace.
Yeah, and in general, with family constellations, people often start with learning the stories. And like we in Eastern Europe, We have so many lost people in the family systems. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Also, due to the repressive backgrounds.
I mean, Second World War, and
yes,
by
yes,
that, yeah, and
every family has
yeah.
so many losses and so many excluded stories, excluded destinies, excluded people and events, and I mean they are quite tragic. And this is fine. So the growth is in really accepting the stories the way they are. That's how we overgrow them. But when starting constellating, there's so much pieces of information start to appear that people need time to process them, and we really need a lot of energy for that. So we go slow, and with times when we have appropriate amount of resource internal, we understand that in fact it's not so much about the grandmothers and grandfathers. It's not so much about the genogram even. They are all symbols. All of that is symbolic in a way.
In our own consciousness, right? It's in our inner universe. Yeah.
Exactly. That's our own universe, and still we are part of it, and that's how we have learned to be. So with appropriate amount of energy, we at some point can overgrow it. And then, of course, these are the unique moments in life when we see how people, like we say in our language, turn towards own life. You know, instead of living over and over this, basically someone else's stories, because there has been so much need to have them, to observe them, to say yes, it was real, and to ventilate those emotions which have been excluded for so long time. At some point we can go over it, but of course the families who have a lot of losses, it takes unbelievable amount of time. And
what I'm kind of really surprised, again, I will use a lot of words, I'm in awe and surprised and so on. And this is this case, for example, that you can help your relative by changing something in you. And this is one of the huge paradoxes. I suppose if you are 13 years in this structure, maybe that doesn't surprise you. But for regular people, it can be like a really shock, for example, that mother, by changing her attitude towards her father, her mother, can heal her kid. And it's for, I suppose for a lot of people that could be like, this is absurd. This doesn't work like that, guys. And this is like that. Yes, that can work like that. And so in my own universe, I can heal others. I can help others with my inner movement towards honor, towards respect, towards love. I can help my closest relatives and so on.
Yeah, and what is probably very important to state here, I can help by choosing to work on myself. You see, that's the main difference, because otherwise we are saving everyone. And when we are saving everyone...
Victim and saver. And,
but you see, when we are saving, and we as children have a major tendency to save the parents, both of them, forever, and grandparents and so on. But you see, growing up movement also includes that we understand that we cannot save anyone, and we shouldn't. And when we accept that statement, then we are in a moment ready to face our own pain. And this is deeply painful, to understand that I cannot save my mother, I cannot save my father, I cannot do anything about their marriage, which was, and then we judge their marriage or their relationship or no marriage or attitudes or whatever. So all of that is out of lack of love. But our movement towards health means accepting life exactly the way it was passed to us. And we got our life through the relationship they had. And that is our personal pain, to deal with it.
There is this really strange two-word expression. What comes to mind for me is like entropy of love. So if you see woods you just see meadow, woods, there is the entropy, right? This is just huge entropy. There is no structure. This is just kind of huge entropy. Everything is open. Everything is growing here, there, somehow growing. And love, it's kind of the very same. You are just letting it be. So you are letting it be, and it's. By the way, just to emphasize your words about that, we are trying to save our parents. That until, I don't know what you say, what is the age, until 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds, we are trying. So parents for us is like everything, right?
Yeah,
mother and mother's milk and father's touch and mother's touch and something like that. It's a whole world, right? So actually we are dependable, and as you said, that we don't know the separation. We are whole. Right in the very beginning, we feel how our father and mother feels. Therefore, babies cry when the mother and father argues in the other room, something like that. So, kind of, we need to understand that mother and father has their own lives, and you need let them do their own thing, right? Their own path to live their lives as they would prefer.
Yes, to fully accept that this is exactly the way it is. We cannot fix it. No matter how hard we try, no matter how many methods we have, our individual pain and growth comes from acknowledging the fact that this is how I have gotten life, and I receive it for the full cost.
There's this again awestruck moment about that when we are trying to pick up some of illnesses from parents or whatsoever, someone is excluded, and then again we are taking on our bodies, on our lives, on situations, these problems. As kids, we are taking it, or maybe, for example, if parents are divorcing, let's say I'm 25 years old, parents are divorcing, and after half a year, I have feeling of some kind of illness, and I have really huge bad illness, and it's related towards the separation. So in that very moment, it's really kind of mind-boggling that kid could just take this pain to the grave, just kind of kill himself, right? To take this illness of separation, this pain, and kill himself, and this is kind of this is mind-boggling, right? That until I can die just to help my parents unconsciously.
Yes. Yes, I mean, this is how we this is how we can see how much we need to belong and how much we are part of a family system. Of course, basically, it's number one what we always kind of look at. It's how much we really are trying to belong for whatever cost. But
trying to belong whatever cost. Yeah.
Yes,
whatever the cost.
The child is ready for anything, and one thing is illnesses that we can explore this way. But you see, there are also other movements in our lives. Not movements. Let's say other actions and decisions and in our lives that are kind of similar. So when we are sick, I mean, this is like kind of a red line. We start doing something about it, but sometimes we don't notice those red lines, and like health is the last instance. But sometimes we also do it in our professional life. And I would say that since I'm really working with organizations and entrepreneurs a lot, and also lady entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, I mean, sometimes this is unbelievable how much effort is put into building something, and be it a company or even an empire, I don't know. Yeah, and which is good in a sense. I mean, we all can entertain ourselves as we want. But if we look systemically, this is rather strange how much we are ready, because it's in general, until people are aware about it, it's still a childish underneath wish to compensate for what we didn't get from the parents. And due to this lack, we happen to grow and happen to also build and create wonderful things. But it doesn't change the substance. So compensation is nice, but well, the reality of a grown-up person probably is that no matter what we do, nothing can compensate, or let's say nothing can add to what we didn't receive in the family. And that's something that we need to be able to fully grasp. Then we can face again our own pain and grow out of it.
So we are trying to fulfill the void, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
And this is kind of this is not the real stuff. This is kind of sublimate or something like that. Compensation.
I mean, we all try our best, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But the growth moment really is in realizing what is and what isn't possible.
By the way, what is kind of most, I don't know, remarkable moments that you have had when you were working with organizations, what you have had with the sublimation, compensation? Just an example, not naming names, of course.
No names, of course. Well, I see different things, really. I see quite a lot and extensively. I see how people try to find some solutions for their personal lives and their whole, being, the reason for living in the organizations. I mean, this is why we build organizations. This is why we suffer in them so much. People really burn out in organizations. That is something, by the way, which is very popular and and it's wonderful that we really start to acknowledge it and we talk about it. Like people who constantly suffer at work in all levels, starting from employee and ending with CEO and owners. I mean, business as a form of
family.
Also, when a business is a family, this is super complicated. This is super complicated.
In subconscious level that you are kind of projecting it.
Not only subconscious, there are also organizations who say that we here are family, and of course it's a dynamic. It's I mean, we're not family, that's clear. Nobody is born in organization. This is like one of my favorite jokes, really. People sometimes completely mix up. They completely mix up. If the family topic is so painful, and we have done so much to separate ourselves somehow, at least physically, then of course the last thing people want to hear about is some kind of family work.
Welcome to our family.
Yeah. And that's the next. And then of course you don't go to the organizations when someone can express even the word family. But what I wanted to say is that people burn out in organizations a lot, and this is a personal dynamic. Of course, there is something about the organization as well, but mostly we still look at it that, I mean, no organization can burn you out without you internally allowing it to happen to you.
And striving for it.
Of course. I mean, you can leave, you don't live there. So the question is why you don't leave. It would be a healthy action. An unhealthy action is to stay and burn out. And then diagnose yourself a burnout and then struggle with it. I mean, this is nice, but this is not a movement.
And how it correlates with the family constellation?
Well, burnout usually happens to people who are carrying someone else's burden. Like if you have been growing up in a family, for example, where you had to take care of your parents or your grandparents in an appropriate age, an way, and I mean, you had to deal with something that was not appropriate for your development, of course. Then you, of course, are in the family pattern, and many people, they get so used to that that they don't understand it even. So with that pattern, this is a risky pattern, really. And I think, like in this part of the world, we are such carriers, unbelievable. And this leads to that, to the fact that when working for an organization, when taking any job, people with this pattern are always at risk to find themselves burned out, because we don't know when to stop.
This is funny that I have been burning out for twice a year, something like for 15 years. And then 4 years ago, I switched. What I told you about my back pain. So after that, I'm not burning out. I'm close to that. I'm on the edge knife, something like that. But there is this, this movement towards again respect and love, and kind of to be free in love towards your father and mother, for example, right? That you're not taking care of their burden, but you respectfully, in love, leave this burden towards anyone else, and you are not obliged to bring these burdens and kind of be in codependency, right?
Well, I like your thought. I think it's great. In family system, I agree with it. It's just that in family systems, family systems are really different. And of course, the pattern of burden is complicated with the fact that usually, if a child is taking it, we face a situation in the family system where no one else either is ready to take it, cannot take it. Sometimes children kind of misunderstand, but actually it's not in most cases. In most cases, the reaction is really appropriate. A person, a youngest element of the system, a child in this case, is taking it over because there is no one to carry it. So when such children grow up, for them, in their worldview, in their map of the world and life in general, they don't have one skill which is essential. They do not really understand how to let it go, how to give it back and let it go, and give it back in a way
towards
that
parents. So
yes, but we don't know if the parents will take it. The question is, we need to be able to give it back internally without knowing will someone pick it up or no. Because then we construct another illusion of absolute love, that now when we have woken up and finally are ready to give it back, someone will take it. Hey, not necessarily. But our growth element is allowing ourselves to leave it.
To be ready to leave it.
Yes, of course, with whatever happens to that. To that what we are carrying, and if we translate it to organizational life and to burnout, then it means that we look at the organization, we say, hey, it seems that this is enough. And people who do not have this skill, and how they go into the burnout, they always have plenty of reasons why they are needed with their huge sacrifice. So for them, it's impossible to take a healthy decision. So that I see a lot in organizations, and it can be in different. You see amounts and segments, and now we were talking about individual level in organization, but it can also be in organizational different levels. It can be among teams. It can be among. Sometimes organizations refer to, I don't know, even to products like they are alive, and they are carrying something that should be ended long before, like formats, for example, of some events, I don't know, or I don't know, even like in my work, and I'm also dealing with it in my life. There are trainings which I cannot finish the format of specific trainings, because then I have to say, okay, I have overgrown it. That's it. I have to end it. I let it go. I take it down. It's too heavy for me. In this format, it has no life anymore. I am with this specific event, or whatever is the event or the product or the service. This is not in flow of life. This is burdened. So I think we totally lack the skill of letting go. We can't understand it. And in business, the problem is that people are so filled with the idea that more, forward, more success. Let's have the motivation. Let's have the drive. Let's have the, and you see, like for systemic approach, this is always a big question. How much of that is healthy? How much of that aspirations lead towards a more fulfilling life, and when it's really the opposite?
When you have tensions in your worldview, you have tensions towards your mother, towards your father, and there are tensions in this family system, so you will have these tensions in your life. Mm-hmm. So it will manifest in burnouts at work, problems in your personal life, and so on, so on, so on. What is really kind of important, but I understand right now that kind of to say, maybe what you are trying to kind of emphasize is it sometimes this process of digging to finding for solutions can be kind of like not so like straightforward. It can be like well, here and one step back to one step forward to back or whatsoever. But the thing is like the Bert Hellinger is one what I can say with my personal experience where when I have seen so much improvement and especially again with kindness towards yourself, with kindness towards your mother, with kindness towards your father and your whole tribe of relatives and so on, so on.
And still the kindness, not excluding our personal pain. The kindness of a larger really larger area. I don't know.
You know, I mean, when I say kindness and pain, I mean that usually pain we have association with fighting the pain. In this case, you are just opening and letting it go.
Yes, absolutely.
So it comes to this wonderful old Jewish word abracadabra, what means in ancient Jewish, old Jewish language, I create as I speak. Mm-hmm. I create as I speak. This is such a wonderful meaning, right? Abracadabra in these fairy tale stories in Harry Potter. It's kind of really bizarrely twisted around that abracadabra is something bad, with like the bad course or something like that. But anyways, this meaning that when you spell something out with towards concept of honoring and respecting something, there is this kindness what kind of helps you to let this pain to go away. And actually, it's really interesting about this. We are not able to let it go. That this is something totally unique because I'm reading this book, what you gave me, and I'm just thinking about a lot of these examples that I have seen through years. And this is really strange that maybe we have this tendency of mind to kind of to gather more towards ourselves instead of kind of releasing and getting rid of something. And when we get rid of something, then we gain more. As less is more, to give away is gain more. Especially in this case, that our pain is coming because we are afraid to let it go and to get rid of something what we unconsciously have taken upon us from our relatives and family and so on.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
And in terms of organization, so there are these projections towards so leader of companies like a father, or there is mother figures or something like that. What have you noticed, for example, in this Western kind of world, organizations, corporations? What are the kind of trends?
I would say that everywhere, once in a while, we meet again a nice pattern, which we call a double image. And there are many shapes and ways of double image, but we notice, for example, the classic, what we see often, that we confuse unconsciously the boss and the father, or sometimes the boss and the mother, and everyone around kind of sees it, but when we are in this pattern, we don't see it, and it can long for many years. It can go on for many, many years. People search for a job this way. Yep. And also with choosing the organization, we notice, like, for example, professional recruiters, they have such stories when they learn systemic approach, where you basically see the patterns in the CV. I mean, your life CV is like biography. It contains all your main patterns and.
Can you make some examples? How can I say that I'm looking for specific type of father in my boss?
You check organizations you have worked for and in what level and in what positions. And when in the interviews, recruiters who know systemic approach, they ask a few questions. What was your previous work experience? Basically, the first 3 sentences tell it. So it's quite simple if we know where to look.
Burning out. I had bad relationship with my boss.
My boss was an idiot, and I mean that's a pattern again.
And so again, actually, when you characterize your boss, you are characterizing your relationship with your father.
To some degree. To some degree.
And actually, you can understand that the same approach will be brought into this organization in some sense, right?
And it's even much more. We just cover like a few aspects, but in general, we can see the organization itself as a living system, yeah, and we can see the relationship among people in organizations, about between departments, between products, between like organizational culture at all is such a wonderful topic. I mean, people are really trying to improve the organizational culture, and it's so interesting when we look at this topic from systemic perspective, then we cannot change anything unless we acknowledge what is. So first what we need to understand, what is the actual organizational culture. But organizations so often tend to kind of, jump over it, and to, instead of daring to look what is, because that's the base for change. Instead, often what
seeing
we
reality.
need, yes, of course, we avoid reality at all costs, and instead, organizations, of course, invest enormous amount of energy and money and time into deciding what they want instead.
Yes, and naming some cultural buzzwords and values and something like that.
Yes.
And there are cases that when I ask CEOs or HR guys, look, what are your values?
It's written in the page.
Where it's kind of that, and
this is often.
This is kind of family structure when you are not recognizing reality and so on, yeah.
I would say, it's not maybe a family thing in such a way, but we have a tendency to avoid reality at all costs, and
avoid pain, so to speak.
Course,
reality is pain, and avoid pain.
And also in organizations, I mean, we think that organizations are just structures, but we live our lives in organizations. Many people really, they live in these organizations. And then being exposed to reality of organization, this is damn painful. You don't even need the family. You suffer enough already in your work. And depending on the level you are in and in engagement in the organization, of course, so the more grown up are the leaders, the more they are able to talk about what is. And when I work with organizations, I always kind of test that, how much is the organizational leadership able to face reality? And the less they are able to face reality, unfortunately, they are not grown up. And then these organizations have a tendency to think what they want instead of what they have. And as long as there's enough money, it somehow works. But it doesn't mean that the organization is healthy. It just means that they have been lucky enough or skillful enough not to see what needs to be seen. And to a specific degree and to a specific point in time, this is possible. Which is nice, actually. But sooner or later, someone somewhere will need to deal with it.
And actually, by the seeing reality, as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, the first thing is how far we are from respect towards each other and towards ourselves. What is the gap? So to speak, for example, let's say 10 grades would be from 1 to 10, right? It would be 10 would be total honor, respect, honesty, and seeing reality as it is. So we have their problems and their problems. Let's improve that, so on, so on. And one would be like total ignorance and kind of throwing out some slogans and we are family and we are for innovation and blah blah blah, kind of that. So it's kind of movement towards respect, towards each other, honesty, and towards yourself.
I would say that a healthy organization is the healthy organization is characterized, of course, also by respect. When you don't respect, I mean, it cannot be healthy because each organ is working separately. It's like total mismatch, and of course, there are symptoms.
And there's this big topic of, for example, if you are trying, let's say, improve culture towards respect, so you have to be aware that some elements in this culture, in this organization, won't stick in this new culture, right? They will just be, they will separate, they will go separate ways because they don't want this culture of respect, actually. Subconsciously, they want this struggle, they want this fight.
You mean people?
Yeah, people, sorry, yeah. So some employees will will go away. So if you are owner, you are CEO, you need to understand when you make these changes, then it can make some shift in terms of your employees what are working there.
Any change that we do in organization has a risk that we will lose people, and not only those of whom we would even be happy to get rid of, but also those who we would do everything not to lose. So when we talk about organizational change, it has a cost. It has a cost, definitely. And this is why change is so tricky and why organizations really need to learn a lot to make it. This is such a huge thing. It's not that we will change a few papers, a few names and this location, I don't know, and we will get rid of the organizational patterns. No, they will continue just in different shape and with different people.
I had one work for 2 months with organization, more than 200 employees. I was working with leaders, and before the program started, I asked CEO, listen, could you try to evaluate how deep should I go in my program? Because if I go deeper, some people kind of could have this change of paradigm towards their jobs, their positions, blah, blah, and they can maybe just leave. For myself, it was really kind of important to be honest and responsible by saying that this could bring changes in their employee kind of, I don't know, structure. And the CEO said, no problem. If someone wants to leave, then this means this is not their place, blah, blah, blah. Really bold, really honest, really straightforward. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And the thing is that the most important support of the CEO really left after this learning program, and the CEO was kind of really shocked that he understood that, listen, it's really serious. But actually, the funny and really all my compliments go to the CEO because he was towards respect, and in this learning process, he kind of told everyone that listen, guys, I want you to improve, to find your best inner self, go whatever flow takes you, and let's go with Zuargus and so on. And so for owners and CEO, you need to understand you want to be in this some kind of, so to speak, fake reality. What can be working for you? Why not? Yeah, if you are okay with that, let's go with that. Yeah. But if you really want to go towards honesty and honor and respect, then actually you will need to have your team with people who are striving for this respect and honoring towards each other. And that means there will be more harmonic people, so to speak, with more harmony in their backgrounds, in their inner worlds, and kind of that.
The question I would say, how I look at it in this time of my life, I would say that the question is what the owner or the CEO wants. Some really want a more healthy organization. but most don't, and that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
Because it's a huge task, and it's much more than organization. I mean, organization can be successful even if it's not healthy systemically. It can be earning a lot.
Apple was a wonderful example with Steve Jobs being wow.
It's wonderful.
That's their way.
But it's just that we need to really be clear that we as helpers of any kind, we are here just for a period of time, and it's not us who dictate. It's us who listen and do the best we can with respect towards the CEOs and owners, what is their wish, and I mean, of course, and every organization is great, and owners they do their best. So to develop people, this is such a big task. It's much more than much more than just leading an organization. This is like an extra shift. It's an extra shift.
This is just an extra huge family. It depends again.
The question is why.
The
question is why and when the CEOs take this extra shift and what they are trying to complete. How come they do this extra work? Because not all of that is needed for a thriving organization. Sometimes CEOs and owners do much more. And the question again is why, and how long is it healthy for them? Because they are also part of the system.
So, for example, that can be that if this work environment of yours, your company, is healthy, becoming healthy, then it kind of gives you strength in a sense. It can give you strength, right? If there is this respect, if there is this more harmonic ways of being, although it's kind of a little bit dystopian, right? It's kind of idealistic in a sense.
I would say it's idealistic, yeah. And also there are different organizations. We have to distinguish between organizations who are business organizations and non-business. This is also different because business organizations primarily are there to earn. And earning is a different subject.
And then there is business organizations with earning and ideological.
Yes,
kind
yes.
of we
for
want
idea.
to move forward something.
When the idea is the first priority, then it's fine. When money is the first priority, that's a different organization, and that's perfectly fine.
Yep. Okay, and by the way, countries as well, right? For example, our relationships as a nation towards president, so to speak, for example, right? Or attitude. So, for example, our neighbor Estonia have had kind of really nice flow of presidents. When you see that a nation is kind of having respect towards president. And what I have a feeling that it kind of makes huge impact on a climate, psychological climate and well-being of the country as itself.
Yeah, but I would say that we notice symptoms. Like disrespect, for example, for a president or whatever, we can look at it as a symptom. But the problem is that we are part of the society, so we cannot objectively see what happens.
In a sense.
And we that's the problem. We make judgments about it, but we cannot be objective because we are part of the society. Still, maybe at best we can have some observations, but we are never able to fully understand the process. But respect or disrespect, for example, in society towards this and that movement, of course, we also can explore it systemically.
And for example, in Latvia, we had one president, for example, but it was kind of broadly respected more than others. And we can't say that these symptoms as showing out of respect and all these statistics about respect towards her, that these symptoms can't be taken into account, right? We cannot, you said the word fully. Fully is again kind of idealistic word, right? We can just try to understand and feel these trends, that this respect can help in somehow.
Yeah, it's just that if we would kind of dare even to think this way, we would need probably to look at a much larger amount of information, including the history and the origin of the country and the nation. So we have to really dig deep there.
So it's kind of one segmentation
Yes.
what we are just
Yes.
taking, and
Yes.
what I feel that even this small segmentation maybe is really important for the health, for the well-being of nation. And it is like, some 100 years ago I was like in media and I was creating these parody shows, and these parody
I loved your parody shows.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. The paradox of these parody shows is they are really often based on sarcasm, and the sarcasm is like really tricky. If so, for example, kind of, I'm now right now I'm in conversation and negotiations with television about new product, and I'm deciding to do it or not to do it. One thing what I emphasized to television, that we have to be respectful to everyone about whom we talk about. So that's my approach. I want to say that okay, this guy made mistake. I respectfully will say that this is not acceptable, blah blah blah. But I don't want to be disrespectful for this human being.
Yeah, well, you see, but
There's contradiction. Okay.
No, it's wonderful what you say. It's just that I have the following thoughts I will share. Maybe I'm just thinking that when we go out of a certain pattern, because what you mention is that if before it was fine, now it's not fine anymore, which means that you're going out of a specific patterns, you see.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we I mean, going out of systemic patterns always have a cost, and what you mention, it's so clearly that you don't want to jog that way anymore.
I have gone my ways, I have told you my ways, and those ways have been quite a rowdy, quite a ups and downs in a lot of ways.
And cynicisms and cynical attitude and irony and really and these black jokes, of course, they are also, we can also look at them. What is this all about? I also am known for quite how to say,
blackish.
Yes, I like bad jokes. It's true.
Black jokes, just black jokes, kind of jokes noir. Let's call it like an artistic way. Jokes noir. Yeah. So
of course, when we move out of really specific situations in our systemic reality, our humor even changes.
Everything changes. Yeah. Everything changes. There was like at one point, I kind of for 2 years I switched off my humor, sense of humor. I was kind of trying to be really serious, and it kind of was necessary. It was a really new experience for me. But now I'm kind of back, and it's kind of a new phase when I'm, for example, I'm starting to learn humor to make fun of myself. To be really conscious that I'm not kind of being sarcastic towards something, but being like really kind in my humorous way. And it's kind of really new kind of humor. I'm kind of learning it from the ground zero, something like that.
Yeah, and I think this really is a movement. This is a how to say, a sign of internal movement, definitely. And and something becomes impossible and something new appears.
And the thing is, again, when this is kind of new movement, you need to understand that you are kind of learning.
Yeah.
It's not like the phase, I don't know, you are 30, 40, 50 years old and you know everything. No, in this aspect, you are kind of starting to learn from anew, so to speak. Kind of that. Yeah, and this is all thanks to Bert Hellinger. Such a wonderful human being. And by the way, who was his inspirations? Jung, mostly, or
he has studied for so many years, and I think he has been studying for them more than 40 years. Therapy, different modalities. Yeah,
okay. Maybe you can name a few.
I kind of might not be very precise, so I would rather not. But his biography is absolutely known. Even a book is written by himself about it, so it's all available
out there. Okay. Iveta, such a pleasure to talk about this wonderful topic, and I just wanted to remind that for myself, for example, this is kind of way towards more kind society. Okay, again, everyone will do as he or she wants to do. This is kind of my inner kind of way how to express myself, just to kind of appeal myself to move towards more kindness and love, not kind of pushing anyone else towards that way. Just saying this is kind of I think one of the wonderful ways how to experience this life, kind of that.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing what you're doing. And I will grab this book that you will give me. It's such a pleasure. Kind of that.
Yeah, let's go on.
Okay, thanks, Iveta.
Thank you.
And cheers, everyone. Take care, and let's move towards having respect to yourself and your families and people around you. Cheers.